I just love snark subreddits in general. That's why I will randomly, like, find somebody on TikTok who I find somewhat annoying and look up whether they have a snark subreddit, and then I will immediately go to most popular post of all time, and then I'm locked in for the next hour.
Do you look at snark of things that you like?
Not, like, regularly, but I have, and it never makes me not want to engage. Like, you know, like, I've looked at, like, the Taylor Swift snark subreddits, and
sure.
It's frankly, it's the same criticism that I would have of Taylor Swift, which is like, hey, you are somebody who has a lot of power and privilege in this world, and sort of consistently chooses silence, and I think that that is bad. That being said, it's like, I don't know, how much worse is Taylor Swift than other figures in that same genre, level of influence, whatever. I don't think she's the only person who is being bad.
I think it's a longer conversation about, like, times when she has dipped her toes into political discussion, which is versus when she hasn't, which is why I think people specifically freak out about her.
Yeah.
Because Kylie Jenner just never says shit, so no one ever expects her to say shit.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like Taylor Swift has been like, yeah, guys, like, go out and vote. And, like, Democrats are good, and things like that. It's always the most, like, milquetoast.
The same thing is happening to Chappell Roan right now, where it's like she's been so vocal on gay and trans rights, and now she's not being vocal about, like, ICE stuff. And so people in her comment section being like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And it's a weird thing of like, yeah, I do think it's interesting that someone whose brand is being the Midwest princess isn't talking about a very scary thing going on in the Midwest.
Yeah, I'm just kind of ambivalent in general about, like, celebrities doing political statements.
Except Mark Ruffalo, though.
That's because Mark Ruffalo, Mark Ruffalo goes to places. He is actually there.
We like Mark Ruffalo.
I've always loved Mark Ruffalo. He goes where people are, and he puts his money where his mouth is.
Speaking of actors born in the 1960s who we love, hello and welcome to Informed Attraction, a podcast all about how acting is much like being a chameleon, a podcast hosted by one philandering restaurant owner and one failed actor solving a crime on a cruise ship. I'm Mackenna Goodrich.
I'm Dr. Aubrey Hoffer.
And today we continue our journey into the Tucciverse.
Tucci.
Is that the new theme song?
I don't know.
All right. We'll keep workshopping it.
It felt right.
Okay, great. Today, we will mostly be focusing on the 1990s, a period where Stanley Tucci is in what I'm calling his indie theater era. And you might be wondering, what the fuck does that mean, Mackenna? I do a lot of indie theater here in New York, and it's a lot of making plays with no money, with a group of artists you trust over and over again. So, like, I'm directing a play right now with some actors who I know, who I've worked with before, some actors the writer has worked with before, some actors the producer has worked with before, and I'll probably keep working with the same people in some combination until I sell out and I'm forced to cast only TV actors in the off-Broadway play I'm directing. Also, much like indie theater, some of the movies Stanley Tucci is in during this era are really good, some are really interesting, and some are really, really bad. I feel like I maybe have the least to say about Tucci's actual appearance during this era, because it's the time where he has like the least consistency in type. He's in his indie movie bag and his character actor bag. He's not playing mobsters anymore. We mentioned last time that he, between the 90s and then when he does the Pelican Brief, said that he's not going to play mobsters anymore. So he doesn't play any mobsters in any of these movies I'm going to talk about. And so also, for the most part, he kind of exits this archetype of smarmy / evil guy who crushes pussy. But he also hasn't really entered the hot, bald, middle-aged man era that we know and love him for today. But we see like remnants of both smarmy man and previews of like Caesar Flickerman and Nigel from Devil Wears Prada. We see flickers of those characters in this era too. So if last time was into the Tucciverse, this one isn't exactly across the Tucciverse, but a little bit like between the Tucciverse.
Between two Tuccis.
Between two Tuccis. It's really more like between a lot of different Tuccis. As a bit of a thesis
An abundance of Tuccis?
By John Tucci. In the 1990s, that's an abundance of Catherines by John Green joke for all of you John Green heads out there. Mm-hmm. Is that famously both of our favorite John Green book?
Yes, I am forever distraught that Abundance of Catherines has not gotten the film adaptation that it deserves.
It's just so funny that that's an opinion that both you and me hold.
Because you and I think both of us have very good taste, Yet the Venn diagram of where our taste intersects is shockingly narrow.
I was talking with a friend on the subway platform last week about like people who listen to so much music that they kind of end up having bad taste in music.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's how I feel about you in horror movies.
No, here's the thing. I completely agree with that because I was just thinking about this the other day where it's like people who really love music, right? There's a point where it's like you listen to the Beatles and you're like, okay, yeah, like I know they're influential, but then it's like I need something that's deeper, and that's why their favorite band is like, oh yeah,
Glorbo and the Sheebies.
Glorbo and the Sheebies. They released one EP in 1962, and it sounds like it's been compressed to death, but you know you could really hear, I don't know,
the vocals are just a man going the whole time.
Yeah, first time anybody ever used a fucking cowbell. Sure,
Yeah. It was a zither.
Yeah, just zithering away. And I am that way, I think, with horror, where it's like, I don't know, like, sure, like, I love Scream and Halloween, but I want to watch a horror movie and wonder if someone actually was killed.
You're watching shit like Massacre on the Nightmare Farm Part 4, Episode B, and it's 3 hours long.
And I'm like, this is masterful.
Yeah. And I would watch that and be like, Aubrey, I don't even know that this is a movie.
But then your taste is so interesting because I feel like you have so many like deep cuts when it comes to film and theater, but then you'll also be like, yep, watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And I'm like, hold on.
It's because I have the greatest taste of all time. I'm a man of the people.
No,
I'm a man of the people.
It's because you do understand, like, what has, like, broad cultural appeal in a way that I think a lot of people who have very good taste actually struggle to connect with because they're afraid of admitting that they like something that's popular, like myself. Yeah. Whereas I think you are actually kind of above everyone in that you're like, oh, I can actually just acknowledge when something is popular and the things that are good about a piece of popular media without any kind of, like, pretentious avoidance.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. I'm like, if something's good, shit's good. I've been listening to so much Addison Rae recently, and it's like, at first I was like, I don't want to like Addison Rae, and now Fame as a Gun is a pop song fucking banger, man. It is an unbelievable song. Like, pop, what a pop girly, but everyone's like, she was on TikTok, so we shouldn't. It's like, no, fuck that. Sabrina Carpenter was on Disney Channel. Fuck that. Yeah. Just enjoy shit that's good, and also enjoy shit that's weird. My favorite movie that I watched of like this chunk of Stanley Tucci movies is The Daytrippers, which is like probably one of the smaller of the movies in this whole period. I would say Daytrippers, and I also really liked In the Soup, which is also like a very small movie. But it's like yeah, I love those. I also fucking love the first Hunger Games movie. We're not talking about the first Hunger Games movie today. We're not there. Tucci's still a little freak. He hasn't become a big screen freak yet. So, a bit of a thesis statement for this episode. In the 90s, Tucci becomes a shapeshifter. He joins the indie scene, he stops playing the same guy over and over again, and in honor of Big Night and the country of Italy, he just starts throwing spaghetti at the wall, and he takes control over his own career and his own art. So just a very brief thing about, like, the 90s indie movie ecosystem, because that's like a lot of where we're gonna live today, because there's a lot of where Tucci was living during this time. The 90s are generally a huge period for independent cinema in the United States. I would say late 80s throughout the 90s, we're just like in this time where a lot of like indie directors are making movies, and there's more ways for people to see them. We're seeing more indie movies have like breakout moments. Miramax, which is unfortunately Harvey Weinstein's company, produced a ton of independent movies in the 80s and 90s. I saw the Miramax logo so many times and heard its little theme song more than I ever have in my entire life this past week and a half. And it's like, you think about something like Clerks that Miramax distributed. And it's like, there's no reason that movie should have been as big as it was. But it just like was a part of this 90s movie ecosystem, and Miramax just like knew how to push these movies. Additionally, the Sundance Film Festival, which was certainly a home for independent movies I don't even want to dip my toes into the discourse about whether Sundance is still a home for independent movies. There's like a lot of discourse about that. And so this is my putting one pinky toe into it, acknowledging that a lot of people are like Sundance has a little bit moved away from indie movies. But I heard this past year, like this past Sundance that just happened, it like felt like indie's back at Sundance. So, okay, one pinky toe in, I'm taking it back out now.
How much does it cost to go to Sundance?
I don't know. Does it cost to go to the Sundance?
That's always been like a dream of mine, and I want to know right now whether that's like a reasonable dream or whether that is like a pipe dream.
We would now be going to Colorado, to be clear. It's pretty similarly priced to the New York Film Festival. 2 years ago, okay, so it looks like a 10 film package was $850. But like you could buy an individual ticket for $30. And I, for the brief moment I got to see the website this year, it looks like it was $35 for a single. Oh, here we go. Park record. Here we go. Yeah, so $35 this year for a single ticket. So the cost is going to be more about like being in Park City and now.
Okay, so it's like conceivably it's like you could kind of just like go to say you went for a relatively low cost, but then if you wanted to like go and really have the in-depth like I'm gonna see all the movies experience, that's where you're paying more of the premium. Okay, but even then that's not like that is like the cost of a vacation.
Yeah, like if you want to go in 2027, it would be the cost of going to, because it's moving to Boulder, Colorado. It's moving from Park City, Utah to Boulder, Colorado next year. So it would be the cost of going to Boulder, Colorado, which honestly from Louisville is probably not a super expensive plane ticket. And then it's the cost of staying in Boulder, which is going to be expensive during the film festival. So you're looking at probably more expensive housing because the festival is going on. And then, you're looking at like tickets to the however many movies you want to see. Yeah.
Okay. Informed Attraction takes on Sundance.
I mean,
let's manifest. Let's manifest right now. You and I at Sundance. We're doing some kind of live podcast special. Maybe we're even in a panel. Whoa!
I was gonna say, we all know I'm gonna use company money again this year to go to the New York Film Festival so I can talk about the same 3 movies over and over again on the podcast for 6 months. Speaking of which, Pillion is out now, and if you haven't seen it yet, I need you to see it, and I need you to email us about what you thought about it.
Is it a good Valentine's Day watch?
Is it a good Valentine's Day watch? Yeah, I think so. It's a devastating movie, but it's also like a very lovely movie.
If you had to choose between Pillion and Wuthering Heights for Valentine's Day vibes.
Okay, I think with Pillion, you're gonna have a good time. You might just feel like a little sad at the end. Mm-hmm. Wuthering Heights, you're either going to have a great camp time or you're going to walk out in a rage that you've never once felt before. That second thing is only based on reviews that I've read, because I have not seen Wuthering Heights yet.
Do you think you will?
Yeah, probably. I feel like I'm going to need to be able to talk about this movie with people, because I feel like people are going to be mad about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm so interested in it as a concept. I think you hit the nail on the head when you basically said, like, this is going to be a movie that is the interpretation of somebody who read this, like, fan fiction.
Yeah.
Because that is kind of the consensus that I've seen from people.
I think she could have avoided this entire controversy if she would have just not cast Jacob Elordi and would have just cast a man of color as Heathcliff. And I kind of, I am sort of disinterested in her argument that she cast the part the way that she felt it in her head. And I think if the movie doesn't address the fact that she cast a white man, I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because also, Dave Patel was right the fuck there.
Dev Patel, when is he going to finally be a, like, Regency era romance lead?
I know! Let him be hot and British in a movie! He's hot and British!
It's what we all want. It's what we've all been here for. And yet, society is not letting us have it.
When they let me do my Pride and Prejudice adaptation, I'm calling Dave Patel first.
It's gonna be Dev Patel and me. And
Aubrey, I would be in my sellout era in this instance, to be clear.
We spent all the money getting Dev Patel and then have to film the entire rest of Pride and Prejudice using a budget of approximately $7.
And we film it in my apartment in New York. The whole thing's just in this apartment.
Okay, but why does that premise feel like an A24 movie?
Mr. A24 at gmail.com. Hello, it's me, Mackenna, again. So the Sundance Film Festival experience, extraordinary growth in the 1990s under the leadership of Jeffrey Gilmore and John Cooper, who transformed the venue into a premier festival in the United States on par with Cannes, Venice, Berlin, and Toronto International Film Festival. Those 5 festivals together are known as the Big Five. So this era in indie film is also very ensemble driven. It's very actor forward. It's very neurotic and talky. A lot of it is centered around New York City. Oh, Aubrey, I texted you about the Daytrippers, and you were like, yep, looks like an indie movie from the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Tucci really fits into this sphere because he's got a theater background. He's comfortable playing in the ensemble. He's comfortable playing an unlikable character, and he's comfortable in supporting roles. He's not, I mentioned last time that I watched all of Daniel Day-Lewis's movies, and like Daniel Day-Lewis has only been in like X amount of movies because he's only ever played the main character in movies, and he's only done really like prestige projects. Mm-hmm. Whereas like Stanley Tucci is someone who's like an actor who's like a working actor who's like, put me in anything and I'll play ball. And I think that's really clear during this era of his career because he's really doing anything during this era. None of these movies that I'm going to talk about make much sense together.
I mean, I think that one of the themes that I see in a lot of like 90s independent movies is this idea of like kind of a deconstruction of suburbia, of the family unit. Yeah. Like, I feel like it all kind of leads to this endpoint, which is American Beauty in 1999, which is, like, you know what I mean? Like, capturing what I think a lot of indie films in that idea of, like, family dynamics, interpersonal stories, like, are all kind of building toward that, which ends up being, obviously, a smash hit and major theatrical release.
Yeah. It's so funny to think about Sam Mendes making an indie movie when he's about to make 4 Beatles movies.
And I will be sad.
I know, and I will be sad too, and I don't want to be sad, but I'm gonna be there. We made a joke at lunch the other day that we're just all gonna, me and 3 of my friends, we're just gonna each take one. We're just gonna take one. I think I took John. I'm gonna go see John.
Dibs on Ringo. I'm gonna see the Ringo movie
Isabel
first.
already took dibs on, Isabel was first dibs on Ringo. Or maybe I agreed to go see George. No, I think I agreed to go see John.
The order I would see them in, and this is based on nothing, what I think is the correct order is gonna be Ringo, George, Paul, and John. In my mind, that is the correct order to see them in, because you want to go from the most insular personal to the, like, broadest strokes of, like, what is fame and, like, what does it mean to be, like, a legend and, like, iconography. And I feel like that is, like, the funnel from which you get that narrative.
Right. And, like, you sort of improve and wig in that direction.
What I was interested, what I find interesting about those movies is that at first, what I thought the premise of these were is that there would be a chronology to it where it's like, for example, the Paul movie is about the Cavern Club days, and then the George movie is when they're in India, and then the John movie is like later. And no, it is like
all the same era.
Essentially the duration of their careers, but with these 4 different perspectives. And that, I think, can be fascinating, because the issue that I always have with biopics is that biopics tend to suffer because they never decide through which lens they want to tell the story. So they end up just telling, like, they don't know, like, are they telling a story about the relationship? Are they telling a story about the music? Are they telling a story about fame, about money, about X, Y, and Z? That's why, like, Walk the Line is a really successful biopic, because it is so narrow in, like, we are telling the story of Johnny Cash through the relationship with his wife. Everything else kind of falls to the wayside. And what I think could be interesting with these 4 Beatles movies is if they're like, we're going to tell the story of the Beatles through the perspective of the relationships between all the guys, and maybe that's the Ringo story, through the relationship with fame, and that's the John story, through the lens of how they created the music, and that's the Paul story, and so on. I think that is very
fascinating. Through being the hottest one, and that's the George story.
George Harrison stays unproblematic.
George Harrison's so fucking sexy. I love George Harrison.
It's so funny because I feel like when I was younger and when I became a Beatles fan, that was in the era of, like, Beatles rock band, and it was pretty much like everybody universally was thirsty for Paul McCartney. It was like you were either like a Paul girl or a John girl. And now
tomato, boo, boo.
And now I feel like this new Beatles resurgence, which is largely going to take a lot of the Gen Z people, is everyone is now is now feeling George Harrison. And what does that mean?
I was there from the beginning. I was there from the beginning with George Harrison, okay?
Me always standing Ringo since the day I was 9. I love a man with a big old nose.
So I think the thing about Stanley Tucci during this era is that he's not chasing leading man status. He's embedding himself in the community and in the industry. And I think that's like a difference between, you know, like someone like a Stanley Tucci and a Daniel Day-Lewis is like, Stanley Tucci just wants to play in the ball pit. Like, he just wants to play in the sandbox. He's like playing, he's making money, yes, but like, he's not doing any of these like huge movies at this time. He's just like doing some shit he cares about and then some shit that's bad, but I'm sure was a check. And like something that is going to be a theme throughout this episode, it's like he's working with a lot of the same actors. And so a lot of the same people were cropping up over and over again through the movies I was watching this week because he's just like in this ecosystem.
Are we going to get into his like personal relationships at all?
I've avoided it thus far because much like a successful biopic, I'm really looking at this through the lens of his career and like public perception of him. And I think despite the fact that like he has been married twice, I don't really think his marriages have been like a big part of like how people have seen him.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. This is during the 90s is the time where he marries his first wife, Catherine, who ends up dying in 2009. And so the first movie I watched, Aubrey, this is a movie I think you should watch. I don't know that I think that you'll like it, but I think it's a movie you should watch. It was not the movie I had you watch for this episode because it wasn't the one that I felt was the most relevant, but this movie was called In the Soup. It's from 1992. 1992 was the earliest thing I watched for this episode. We're going about 9 years this episode. So 1992 is an independent comedy directed by Alexandre. It's a fucking French name, and I just don't want to do it. But I know it's Alexandre.
Steve Buscemi looks so hot in the like little screen cap I'm seeing here.
Okay, yeah. So this is a movie by Alexandre Rockwell, and it's Alexander Rockwell, and it was written by Rockwell and the writer Solis Mitchell. And it stars Steve Buscemi as Adolfo Rollo, a self-conscious screenwriter who has written this 500-page screenplay, and he's looking for someone to produce it.
Anyone who doesn't find Steve Buscemi attractive you're not seeing with eyes that reflect reality. You live a life through a clouded lens, and I am the only person able to see clearly.
Well, I don't think you're the only person able to see clearly, is what I would say about that.
I don't know.
Have you seen okay, well, actually, we'll come back to that. I have a picture of him in drag to show you later. So in the Soup, basically, Steve Buscemi is this, like, struggling...
Do you say his name's Steve Buscemi? I've never heard that.
Yeah, that's how you say it.
It feels like when people say Paschetti.
No, it's Buscemi.
Buscemi. You know what? I've
it's
probably
like
been wrong.
Scorsese.
I use my American mouth.
Aubrey's a racist. So
only against Italians.
So basically, in this movie, Steve Buscemi's character is trying to make this. He's a struggling screenwriter. He's living in this like shitty apartment, and he like places an ad in the newspaper, and this man Joe is like, "I'll produce your movie, kid." Then they're like never actually making the movie. Steve Buscemi's character is in love with his neighbor. You find out that the way that Joe's a gangster. He's trying to finance the movie by like doing drug deals. They're never gonna make this movie. It's 500 pages long. So like I said, Adolfo, who Steve Buscemi plays, is in love with his neighbor, and his neighbor's husband is played by Stanley Tucci. He's in 1.5 scenes of the movie. The one scene he's in is he knocks on Steve Buscemi's door, and he's like, "I'm your neighbor, Gregoire," and he's French. So we've got a French Stanley Tucci in this movie. And he's like, "I need to go to your fire escape and go out your fire escape and go into my apartment via your fire escape." And then he's like, "My wife hates me. She hates me." And Steve Buscemi is like, she eats you?" And he's like, "No, she hates me." And she's saying she's trying to say that he like beats her. The only other time you see him in the movie is in a dream sequence where Steve Buscemi's having a nightmare about Gregoire torturing his wife because Steve Buscemi's character is in love with his wife. That is sort of what's happening in the Soup and what good old Stanley Tucci is doing in it. He's in like the middle of the movie. Also, we have Sam Rockwell in one of his earliest film roles, and he plays like a mentally challenged boy, and I didn't recognize him.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I was like, and all these people people places like great Sam Rockwell performance, and then I was like, when was Sam Rockwell in this movie? And he plays like the neighbor's like mentally challenged son. It was interesting. So, and we'll see some of the actors from this movie pop up in this Tucci sphere again. Steve Buscemi, Seymour Cassel, and Sam Rockwell, mostly because he does another movie with this same director later. So the next movie that I watched with Stanley Tucci in it is a movie called It Could Happen to You, starring Nicolas Cage and Bridget Fonda. Aubrey, I thought you were going to have something to say about Nicolas Cage, and so I paused for a Nicolas Cage opinion.
I love him.
Okay, great. I thought you felt really strongly about him, but maybe I'm thinking somebody else.
I think he's really great. I mean, we can out his legal name, Nicholas Coppola, king of the Nepo babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, what I think Nick Cage is really emblematic of is the belief that I have that I don't know that I really think that there are bad performances in general. I think that there's bad casting, and I think that a lot of the time, like, with Nick Cage, when people think that he is doing a bad performance, it's just that he was poorly cast in the role that he's in, because when he's cast in the right role, I mean, like, Mandy is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I think his performance in that is just so compelling, and I don't think another actor would be able to give the performance that he gives.
Right. Well, I think he's another person who just, like, says yes to a lot of shit, and sometimes that's gonna make you look bad if you're, like, doing a bad script because you said he says yes to a lot of shit.
He does need the money. He does have notorious gambling problems.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yes, Nicolas Cage has crazy spending habits where, like, he's bought like a fucking T-Rex skeleton and has bought a castle and just like and here's the thing. If I was exorbitantly wealthy, I would just start buying crazy shit.
Yeah, me too, absolutely.
Like, why have a McMansion in, like, Beverly Hills when you could buy a Scottish castle?
Well, okay, you said skeleton. Yesterday, I got to go... Flex. Yesterday, I got to go on a private tour of the American Museum of Natural History, and we got to go into, like, the back parts and, like, talk to the curators, like, in... like different parts of the parts that like the public doesn't normally get to see. And one of the places we went was into the paleo lab, and they were showing us like how they clean the dinosaur skeletons once they bring them in from the field. And so I got to see lots of cool dinosaur skeletons that were still like half in their field jackets. And it was really, I was like, bones! I fucking love bones! Aubrey and I love bones!
We do love bones. That was one of the things we didn't get to do when I was in New York last, was I wanted to find a way to procure some bones in the city of New York.
We saw lots of bones.
We did see lots of bones.
We visually saw with our own two peepers lots of bones.
I love, like, taxidermy in general. I love a skeleton. I love a wet specimen. I really just want a house that's full of lots of corpse.
Well, that is not much at all like It Could Happen to You, because the movie is actually a rom-com wherein... Hello, Mackenna from the future here, and by the future I mean 12:32 a.m. the day that this posts. In this episode, I get pretty spoilery about the following movies: It Could Happen to You, Sex and the Other Man, The Daytrippers, In Too Deep, and Big Night. So just, if you're interested in any of those movies, just know that, like, I get the closest to the end. If you really care about not having any of those spoiled, we'll see you a different day after you watch them and come back. But, if not, enjoy the dulcet tones of past Mackenna. Wherein Nicolas Cage plays a cop. So, boo. But he's a cop with a heart of gold. Boo. So basically, it's about, Nicolas Cage and his loud wife, Rosie Perez, buy a lottery ticket, and he, on the day when he has bought the lottery ticket, he goes to a diner. He doesn't have money to tip the waitress, played by Bridget Fonda, and so he says, if I win the lottery, I'll split my earnings with you. They win the lottery. They win $4 million, and he's like, I have to split it with this waitress. And his wife is like, what the fuck do you mean you have to split it with this waitress? And so they split the money, and they split $2 million. So $2 million for Nicolas Cage and Rosie Perez's character, and then $2 million for Bridget Fonda's character. Basically, the whole thing is that, like, Bridget Fonda and Nicolas Cage's characters are these, like, altruistic good people who just want to do good things with their money. And Muriel, played by Rosie Perez, is a rich, greedy bitch who just wants to buy fur coats. And you might be wondering, Mackenna, you have not said the name Stanley Tucci yet. Stanley Tucci plays Bridget Fonda's estranged husband who shows up at the apartment, and he says he won't leave the apartment unless she gives him $50,000.
This is like the third movie where he's been the other man in some capacity.
Yes, this is a studio movie, and so because it's a studio movie, he's much more in his type in this one. Mm-hmm. So he's back in the like smarmy man type in this movie because it's a studio film.
Yeah.
And so when he's in the indie movies, he's, playing, I'm Gregoire, let me into my apartment, my wife, she hates me. Whereas in this, he's like back to being the smarmy, balding husband who's like, give me the fucking money, bitch. And so like that. But no, he's never a give me the fucking money, bitch. He's like, my wife, you will give me the money or I will refuse to leave this apartment. Wink. He's that kind of guy.
I always forget about this era where Nicolas Cage was playing normal guys, because there's also the movie where, what is it, The Family Man, where it's like, he's the businessman, but then he goes to an alternate reality where he settled down with his high school sweetheart, and they're poor, even though in the movie they still live in like a big-ass fucking house. And yeah, and it's just so funny because that is not, you would not see Nicolas Cage today in roles like that at all.
This is the same era where he also does like Face Off and Con Air.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Stanley Tucci talked at all to Nicolas Cage on that set?
They're never in a scene together, so I don't know.
They probably didn't even film at the same time. It's just like now, I would probably consider them like similar levels of famous. So,
I would agree.
So it's like one of those things where it's interesting to think about, like, probably like, years after this, they were probably in the same room at some point. And I just wonder if there was ever like we would have known each other then.
They did a Hollywood Reporter roundtable together, like a long time ago. It was like 16 years ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and so that movie also has Rosie Perez and Seymour Cassel in it, who will show up again in other Stanley Tucci products. I think what's funny too is who's Seymour? So Seymour Cassel plays Joe, the like gangster guy who's funding the movie and in the soup. And then in this movie, he plays this like old rich man who Rosie Perez meets on a boat. And Rosie Perez ends up leaving Nicolas Cage's character for Seymour Cassel's character. And then it's revealed that Seymour Cassell's character actually had no money, and he takes all the money from Rosie Perez and runs.
As should happen.
Yes. Well, speaking of Rosie Perez, the next movie that I was not able to watch, but I wanted to talk about, was the movie Somebody to Love, which was also directed by Alexander Rockwell, and stars Rosie Perez, Steve Buscemi, Stanley Tucci, and Quentin Tarantino.
Sir?
And also Harvey Keitel and Michael DiLorenzo. But, we again have a movie with Rosie Perez, Steve Buscemi, Stanley Tucci in the same movie again, same director as In the Soup. I did want to show you Steve Buscemi in drag. That was the main reason I wanted to bring this up. This is Steve Buscemi in drag during Somebody to Love.
I've probably seen it before because I do know Steve Buscemi looks great in drag. Yeah, who the fuck does he look like when he's in drag?
I don't know.
It'll come to me later. He is very much giving Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah.
God, who the fuck? There's like a redheaded actress though who he specifically looks like in this picture.
Well, and like in the movie, this is what he's wearing. So this is an actual still from the movie.
My God, who does he like? What? He's kind of giving like Jessica Chastain.
Interesting. Oh, someone said, I don't know who this actress is. Someone said that they think he looks like this woman, but I don't actually know who this is. So I couldn't tell you.
Oh, who is this?
I don't know who that is.
All right,
that is what he looks like.
Oh God.
Reverse image search it.
Yes.
Oh, that's from Death Becomes Her.
Is that Goldie Hawn?
That's Goldie Hawn from Death Becomes Her.
He does look like Goldie Hawn.
Yeah.
All right, now you've got to edit it so that we go, oh my God, he looks like Goldie Hawn.
He looks like Goldie Hawn in Death Becomes Her. So I just wanted to mention Somebody to Love because, we have the same ecosystem, and also I wanted Aubrey to see that picture.
Yeah.
So, Sam Rockwell is also in that movie. So then we get to Sex and the Other Man. Aubrey, I was texting you about this movie this week, wasn't I?
What did you say about it?
About the acting being really bad.
Oh, that was the one where you were like, yeah, why are the actors in this so bad?
Yeah, so, okay, and I ultimately think it's the writing and the directing's fault, but Sex and the Other Man is a movie from 1995, directed and written by Carl Sloven, based on a play. And it stars Stanley Tucci, Carrie Werner, Ron Eldard, and Conrad Good. And it's about Stanley Tucci being forced into being a cuck for a couple.
Fuck it, sure.
The plot of this movie is that Stanley Tucci is Carrie Werner, character named Jessica's boss. And he basically is like, let me come over tonight and we'll talk about your promotion. And they start to hook up. They're like starting to, and like she hits on him to also, like she's the one who like initiates sex. And he is like, you said you have a boyfriend? Oh, I have a wife. You should know I have a wife. Oh, is your boyfriend gonna come home? No, he's out of town. Okay. And so they're like in the process of hooking up. They don't have sex. They like start taking clothes off. And then the boyfriend walks in. And basically what you find out is that like the boyfriend hasn't been able to like stay hard during sex. And so she's like desperate to get pregnant and like desperate to just like be fucked. Mm-hmm. And that's why she was gonna have sex with Stanley Tucci. But then the boyfriend discovers that like he can get hard with Stanley Tucci watching them. So he like ties Stanley Tucci up and threatens to kill him if he tries to escape. And then they like also, I couldn't really track why they then decide they need to leave the apartment and they like take him on the run. And then Stanley Tucci's character is like, you should come with me and leave this insane man. And she's like, no, I'm going to stay with this insane man. And that's kind of the movie.
So that is gay.
It was something.
It feels like that's gay, but wasn't made by queer people.
So this is oh my God, wait, there's a really funny Letterboxd review. It's so funny you said that, Aubrey. Okay, hold on. Sex and the Other Man. I have to find this Letterboxd review now because I was reading other reviews on Letterboxd and I was like, I gave this a 2, by the way. Oh my God, wait. There's this really funny part where the girlfriend and boyfriend are trying to like do like sexy talk with each other and the boyfriend says, baby, you are looking particularly voluptuous this evening. And it's so fucking funny. The things that they say to each other are so crazy. And also they're talking in the worst Brooklyn accents I've ever heard in my entire life. The dialogue has that theater rhythm that doesn't always adapt well. And between their heterosexual mind games and the annoying fucking music, the lulls wore thin, and past a certain point, I was really praying for it to end. Damn, I wish I could find it. There was this really funny review that was like, I kept waiting for this to get gay, but then like it never actually got gay. And I was like, yeah. Oh, also, Aubrey, you would like, there was a review that was like, there's something inherently that I do not trust about blonde men.
Yes.
But yeah, cue sad music for the erectile dysfunction speech. The music was fucking insane. It was so bad.
Do you think it was like intentional? Like they were trying to play that for laughs?
I don't know. Like that's the thing. Like it literally was so crazy. Like I couldn't tell if they were trying to, I couldn't tell. Like I couldn't tell what they were trying to do tonally. Because I think it's like trying to be a dark comedy, but it's also like played so seriously at sometimes. Like I didn't know what was going on. But yeah, it was, it was strange. That was maybe the weirdest one. And then I was going to watch the next movie, and the next movie was this movie called The Alarmist. Aubrey, I have to show you the poster for The Alarmist.
Oh my God.
Because you're going to have the reaction I had. Okay, look at what the poster for this next movie that I did not end up watching because I couldn't find it. But look at what the poster was.
Whoa!
Please describe what you're looking at.
I am looking at a chained up Stanley Tucci with a like nefarious smiling David Arquette behind him. A blonde woman is behind him looking nefarious, and they are in hell.
And so I was like, there's no way Stanley Tucci was in like a second cuck movie the year after the other cuck movie. This is not a cuck movie. There is like a sex element to it, but it's not a cuck movie in the way that the other one was. Why is he tied up? Because they like do hold him captive. But it's not for sex reasons.
Okay.
Also, Ryan Reynolds is in this movie.
No!
I didn't watch it, so I don't know why, but I just know he's in it. So, anyways, that was that thing. Then we watched the movie that I by far liked the best from this era, which was The Daytrippers. So The Daytrippers is a 1996 independent comedy drama film written and directed by Greg Mottola. It was Greg Mottola's first movie. You might know Greg Mottola as the director of Superbad, the writer-director of Adventureland, and the director of the movie Paul. He also directed several episodes of Arrested Development, The Newsroom, The Comeback, and Peacemaker. So that's like, you can kind of get the vibe of what what he's up to. And so The Daytrippers was his first movie. He wrote and directed it. It stars Hope Davis, Stanley Tucci, Ann Mira, Parker Posey, and Liev Schreiber. And it's basically a movie about this woman, Hope Davis, finds a poem near her husband Stanley Tucci's desk, and her like big Long Island family decides they need to drive into the city to confront him at work. He works in publishing, and then the whole day is them like going around the city trying to find him because he's not at work. So then they go to the apartment of the person who they think he's cheating with's apartment. Then he's not there. So then they go to this party that he said he's going to be at for like the release of a new book. He's not there. They go back to the apartment. There's a party happening at the other apartment. They go up and they're like, now they're at this party. They finally find him at the party. So the whole time, the woman who he's allegedly cheating with is named Sandy, Aubrey, and they have a picture of Sandy, or who they think is Sandy that they find in his office. Aubrey, what do you think the twist of this movie is?
Sandy is actually, I don't know, a man.
Sandy is a man! Sandy is a man. He's cheating on his wife with a man.
Oh my god, how scandalous.
This was my first Stanley... Maybe there was a previous to this Stanley Tucci gay, but this was my first Stanley Tucci gay in this 1996 film before he plays more gay men later. But this was my first Stanley Tucci gay and is that in my current watch.
And is that just played as, like, laughs? Is it played as drama?
It's she feels the same... Okay, so she, I think, kind of feels the same way about it that she would have felt about it if it had been a woman.
Yeah.
Hope Davis's character, who's his wife. She's just like, how long has this been going on? He's like, been like, a year. And she's like, bitch, what? And he's like, I don't, and she's like, are you gay? And he's like, I don't know. I need you to help me figure it out. I need you to help me figure it out. And she's like, no. And then she like walks with her sister. There is some like pretty flagrant homophobia from her mother, who is the villain of this movie. I know that Stanley Tucci's character is supposed to be the villain of this movie. If you read all of the Letterboxd reviews of this movie, including my own, the villain of this movie is the fucking mom.
Yeah.
My review of this movie is, I said, Little Miss Sunshine, but with a Long Island family and the younger sister's autistic boyfriend. My number one op is the mother. And if I ever tell you I'm marrying into a Long Island family, stop me. Please stop me. But yeah, so Liev Schreiber plays like a character that I can only describe as autistic and is the boyfriend of Parker Posey's character.
Game recognized game. You're allowed to, you can declare anyone as
autistic. Can I declare Liev Schreiber's character Carl autistic? But it's like, he's just so sweet, but like the way that his brain works, you're like, oh, that's a neurodivergent man. And they didn't have the language for that in 1996, but that's a neurodivergent man. Yeah. And so I loved it. I mean, and I love Little Miss Sunshine, so it's high praise to say that this is a Little Miss Sunshine-ass movie. But like, it's a really lovely movie. But yeah, this is an interesting movie because he's playing like a bad husband, which is a role that he's played bad husbands before, but it's in a different way in this movie. Like it's like he's basically like living this entire second life as this like cool gay man in New York City, and then he's living this life as this like straight man with Hope Davis on Long Island, and that's sort of the thing that you get with them. And so, yes, big spoiler for Daytrippers, which I will put a warning of. You have already heard a spoiler from me saying I'm going to spoil this movie before this, that future Mackenna will record. But thank you, future Mackenna. This is like, I think you should still watch it. It's a really, I loved this movie. It is, I think of every movie I've watched so far for this series, this has been by far my favorite movie. I thought it was so good.
I mean, I love Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah, and it's such a fun movie. And it was just a really sweet movie. There's also a really good Marcia Gay Harden character in it. She plays like the drunk girl at the party who doesn't really know anybody. And so she's like trying to get Hope Davis's character to stay with her and talk to her and not like continue looking. It's like a very sweet movie.
That's awesome.
And then the next, so epic highs from Daytrippers. Next movie, still a high, not a low by any means, but a unique one in that it is Stanley Tucci's directorial debut and the movie that Aubrey and I both watched for this episode, which is the movie Big Night. And it is a 1996 American comedy drama film co-directed by Campbell Scott, who I should note was in The Daytrippers. So like also a member of like this ecosystem. Campbell Scott in The Daytrippers plays like Parker Posey's character ends up making out with a writer at that like party they go to, because she's like clearly She is sick of how much her Long Island... I don't really actually think she's sick of Carl, her boyfriend. I think she's sick of how much her mom loves her boyfriend. And so she ends up making out with this, like, guy at the he's an author at the party. Who, like, also low-key hits on Hope Davis's character. Like, he's just trying to fuck. But yeah, so this movie is co-directed by Campbell Scott and Stanley Tucci. It was written by Joseph Tropiano and Stanley Tucci. And it stars Minnie Driver, Ian Holm, Isabella Rossellini, Campbell Scott, Tony Shalhoub, and Stanley Tucci.
Yeah. Mark Anthony, looking sexy.
And Mark Anthony. Mark Anthony plays their little, like, I guess he's like their sous chef, prep chef.
He's so sexy.
Yeah, he's so, I was like, he was just so cute. I was like, he's a cute little guy. So, Aubrey, what's Big Night about?
Big Night is essentially a movie about, and now I don't know any of the characters' names. You got Stanley Tucci. Secondo. He's the proprietor of an Italian restaurant that he owns with his brother, Tony.
Primo.
And they're so Italian. Stanley Tucci's Italian accent, it does waver. Oh, yeah, he loses his accent in multiple scenes. My favorite is where he's doing the Italian accent, and then somebody says something, and he responds with okay, but he just says okay exactly like Stanley Tucci.
Yes, I noticed that one too.
He loses all Italian flair. Essentially, their restaurant is like, Primo is really good at making Italian food, but he's like kind of difficult, and their restaurant...
He also is making Italian food, they're like, they're from Italy, they're from Calabria. I don't know that I'm allowed to do that.
And it's the 1950s.
It's the 1950s on the Jersey Shore. I've done more accents than I'm allowed to do this episode already. And yes, and it's like they're doing like classic Italian food, and people keep coming into the restaurant wanting like Olive Garden Italian food.
Yeah, like a woman orders risotto and like doesn't really know what risotto is, and then is like confused by what risotto is, and then asks for spaghetti and meatballs. That's very much the vibe. And then basically the restaurant is failing, and then Stanley Tucci goes to this like rival business's restaurant and is like, help bail me out. And then the guy is like, no, not really. He like tells him that like the jazz singer is going to come, and then and that's like the big night that they're preparing for. Is like, it's going to be this big night when this jazz singer comes, and that is, and basically it's like the episode of SpongeBob where SpongeBob has to make the fine dining restaurant.
Yeah, so basically there's this rival restaurant, Pascal's, who is played by Ian Holm. It's eponymous. The character's name is Pascal. He like makes bad Italian food, and he's like, you guys shouldn't try to save your restaurant. You should come try to work for me. And they're like, no, fuck you. We'll never work for you. We want to have our own restaurant. And then, but he's like, okay, I'll help you guys out. I'll have Louis Prima come to your restaurant. And so they like basically shell out all their savings on this big night where Louis Prima is supposed to come. Obviously, Louis Prima does not come. So, and you kind of think at first it's because Stanley Tucci is fully fucking Pascal's wife. He's fully boning down Isabella Rossellini.
Well, he has a beautiful girlfriend, by the way,
Minnie Driver,
who he will not commit to,
who he won't fuck either.
Yeah, he won't. He
won't have sex with, and he won't marry because he's waiting until he has enough money.
Here's the thing, I relate to Minnie Driver's character in this a lot, because the thing with like dating an Italian man is that it is like a bear trap where. It's like you think you're wandering into a nice little bushel of berries and some salmon, and then, oh my fucking god, my leg my leg is gone. It's like, oh my fucking god, now I have no leg. That is what it is to date an Italian man, because like Minnie Driver, it's like starts and she's like, fucking make it out with sexy Stanley Tucci, who looks like Jason Schwartzman in this movie for some reason. I don't know why, because he doesn't.
Oh, because he's got that wig on.
He does get that wig on.
This is our first Tucci wig.
Yeah, I don't think his facial features look that much like Jason Schwartzman, but throughout the entire movie, I was like, Jason Schwartzman?
He's got that wig on, and then he has the big eyebrows like Jason Schwartzman, so you're like Jason Schwartzman.
Yeah, so anyway, she's making out with sexy Stanley Tucci, and she's like, yeah, I want you to fuck me with your Italian dick, and then he starts fucking yapping! He starts yapping! And that is what it's like to date an Italian man, is that you're like...
Have you dated an Italian man?
My first boyfriend was an Italian man.
Was he actually from Italy?
I mean, okay, Italian American.
Well, I have also dated an Italian American.
And it's like a bear trap.
That was not my experience of dating an Italian American.
Yeah, they love their mothers. They want to have sex with their mothers.
But in any case, so the big night, he's basically like, I didn't do this because you are fucking my wife. I did this so your
I'm actually
business
okay with
will-"
that. I'm actually fine with that.
He's like, that's fine. I'm mad because I want you to come work for my restaurant, and now you're gonna have to close your restaurant, and your asses are gonna have to come work for me. And sexy Tony Shalhoub is like, fuck you, Pascal. We'll never work for you.
He's also with like Allison Janney in this movie, and
he's
so
like
great.
he's flirting with Allison Janney, Kenyon College alum, who owns the flower shop.
Yeah.
So Aubrey, what happens at the end of this movie?
At the end, they make a beautiful omelet, and then they eat it together. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, that's it. That's literally how the movie ends. It's very sweet. It's a very sweet movie. People love this movie. This is like a beloved movie. Me and Aubrey both liked it.
Yeah, I liked it. It was a movie that to me felt like a play, which is, I say that as a compliment. I think not everybody would. In general, I liked it. I don't even know what I can really say about why I didn't love it. I felt like maybe the pacing was a little bit off. Mm-hmm. I think it could have been tighter in general.
I agree. I think it could have been like 15 minutes shorter.
Yeah, I also really liked Tony Shalhoub's character, and I wish that we had more of like him and his dynamic with Allison Janney.
Love him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's big night. And so that was his like first sort of foray into like making his own work, as it were. After that, this was a big low for me, Aubrey. I had to watch a Woody Allen movie. Do you know what I've never done? Watch a Woody Allen movie.
I've watched several.
I've never watched one. I don't think. Maybe I have. Maybe that's a lie. I don't think I've ever watched a Woody Allen. I believe this was the first Woody Allen movie I've ever watched. I think I'm right.
And to be clear, when I say that I still fuck Woody Allen, all my homies hate Woody Allen. I've seen some Woody Allen movies. Sorry guys.
Yeah.
I live in a society.
So this Woody Allen movie, it's the Woody Allen movie of all Woody Allen movies. It's the kind of movie you would expect that Woody Allen would have like died the next day after this movie came out. Because what this movie is it's a 1997 comedy film directed by Woody Allen that tells the story of a successful writer named Harry Block, played by Woody Allen,
always,
who draws inspiration from people he knows in real life and from events that happen to him, which causes a lot of the people to become alienated from him. He is the worst person in the world.
Always.
Harry Block has literally no redeeming qualities in this movie, and I was like, I don't care about this man. And I already didn't care about him because he's being played by Woody Allen, but then I super don't care about him because he super fucking sucks. And all of these celebrities are in it. This movie has an unbelievable cast. We have Kirstie Alley, Bob Balaban, Richard Bogosian, Billy Crystal, Jennifer Garner, Demi Moore, Toby Maguire, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Stanley Tucci, Robin Williams. This movie, Paul Giamatti. This movie has an unbelievable cast. And I'm like, why are you all in this movie? This movie sucked and I hated it. Stanley Tucci isn't... So basically the structure of this movie is that like, as you're on this journey of like Harry Block trying to get to like the university that he's getting an honorary degree from, he like keeps having like keep seeing like clips of like stories and books he has written. And so Stanley Tucci plays basically the book. It's like the self-insert story about his wife who was his therapist and then became his wife and then became super Jewish again and was like, I need to be with a man who's more Jewish than you. That couple is played by Stanley Tucci and Demi Moore in the like book world. So Stanley Tucci's only in that one scene. Demi Moore appears to him later in like basically like a dream sequence as this character. Because you also come to find out that like the wife character in the book is both based on his ex-wife Kirstie Alley, who is amazing in this movie, by the way. She is so fucking good. Yeah. So the character's like a composite of Kirstie Alley's character and then also his like half sister who like became extremely devout Jewish after marrying her husband, played by Eric Bogosian. And Woody Allen's character, who has no morals, doesn't like that. And it's just like, yeah, Stanley Tucci plays like a romanticized version of Woody Allen's character in this movie. And he's in one scene, and I watched the whole fucking movie anyway, and I didn't like it. I thought it was bad. I thought it was a bad movie. That also, one person who I did not mention when I was naming all the celebrities in it, Billy Crystal is in this movie, and he plays, basically, Woody Allen was like in love with one of his students, and
classic,
who he was sleeping with, and the student was like, but he kept telling the girl to not fall in love with him, so she didn't. She fell in love with one of his friends, Billy Crystal, and he's like, you fucking stole her from me, man, blah, 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 blah. And so then one of these like dream sequences, Billy Crystal, so he plays the friend, but he also plays the devil. And Billy Crystal's sexy as the devil.
Billy Crystal has always been sexy. Let me see if I can find him as the devil. Oh yeah, he does look sexy there.
Let me see if I can find the actual scene, because you should let me see if I can find the scene, because the scene is actually really fun.
I will say, I hate Woody Allen. All my homies hate Woody Allen. That said, Broken Clock is right twice a day. Midnight in Paris is a beautiful movie.
Is that the Owen Wilson one?
Every other Woody Allen movie, like I've seen Manhattan, I've seen Annie Hall, I've seen several Woody Allen movies, and every time I'm like, this doesn't have the sauce. This is just bad. He's just like a kind of fucking pervert the whole time, and I don't really like it. But then Midnight in Paris, I was like, oh shit. This is actually a beautiful piece of art that was made by a really bad person.
Fuck Woody Allen. Okay, but watch the scene though, because it's really, it's kind of hilarious.
It's like how I feel about Pianist, where it's like, this is like a beautiful piece of art that was made by like a horrible human being.
Who made The Pianist?
Polanski.
Oh, Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
Huh. Jump scare. Aubrey just smiled in a way that I know Billy Crystal just came on screen.
All right, I got the gist of it.
Did you get to the part where Woody Allen looks around hell and says, I could be comfortable here?
Yeah. Yeah. The thing with Billy Crystal is, obviously you know, like, D&D characters. I feel like Billy Crystal is, like, the D&D character where you roll and they have just maxed charisma.
Oh yeah, he's got like +10 to charisma.
Yeah, he is just like ultimate charisma to the point where it's like none of the other stats even fucking matter.
No.
Because he can just charisma his way out of any situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Also, the little boy from the Santa Claus is in this. He plays Woody Allen's son.
No!
The kid who plays Charlie plays Woody Allen's son in this movie.
I recently found out that the woman who plays, is her name Nora, the wife in the Santa Claus? She's a lesbian.
Oh, good for her.
I know. I was like, yay!
Yay! So the next movie I watched after deconstructing Harry was a movie called The Imposters, which is the next movie that Mr. Tucci directed. This one was directed and written by Stanley Tucci, as well as produced by Stanley Tucci, and it stars Stanley Tucci. So it stars Tucci, Oliver Platt, Alfred Molina, Tony Shalhoub, Steve Buscemi, Hope Davis, Lily Taylor, Allison Janney, Isabella Rossellini. And those are a lot of like familiar names that I've said multiple times throughout this episode. Woody Allen is also in a scene of this movie. He plays like an audition director. So it's like the boys are back in town. Everyone who he's worked with during this era of his career is like showing up in this movie.
Oh, it is interesting to think about the like films that Stanley Tucci decided to like lead as a filmmaker as opposed to an actor, right? Where it's like Big Night, obviously like a passion project about like Italian heritage and families and like family dynamics. And I'm interested in contrasting that with his second feature,
which is just a fucking slapstick comedy farce. Like it's a slapstick comedy on a boat. I think it gets like a little too long in the middle. Like it's not as like literally a similar issue to Big Night where like it's just like it like sort of loses itself in the middle. It's like a little too long, and I think if they had tightened it up a little bit, I like would have liked it more. And I gave it a 3.5 because I had a really good time, but I wasn't like, this is my review. This is a really genuine and lovely attempt at a farce film that has a lot of parts that I really like, but gets a little lost in the sauce in the middle and has some weird pacing issues. But love you, King Tucci, and this was an overall pleasant weeknight watch. I think if I had been on drugs while watching this, I would have had a great time, but I don't do weed, so I wouldn't have been able to do that.
What is it a farce of?
Okay, so basically what this movie is about is it is about these two like failing actors in 1938 New York City, Arthur and Maurice, and they basically like use their acting skills to do swindles. so there's like a scene where they're like in a bakery and they're trying to swindle their way into some food. And so they like get into this like loud shouting match where Stanley Tucci's character ends up like insulting the chef to the point that like you think that like he's gonna give them food, but then he instead gives them tickets to a production of Hamlet on Broadway that night. This is being led by Shakespeare actor Sir Jeremy Burton, played by Alfred Molina, who's like a horrible drunk and a horrible actor. And so that night in the bar, they are like...
I thought you meant in real life for some reason, and I was
no, the character, not Alfred Molina as a person.
I was like, Alfred Molina slander.
So Alfred Molina's character, Jeremy Burton, is so, like, drunk on stage during this production of Hamlet that he actually accidentally stabs the actor playing Laertes. Not fatally, stabs him, like, in the head, but, like, still, like, draws blood.
Yeah.
And so they're in the bar that night, and Oliver Platt's character is, like, yelling and screaming about how much Jeremy Burton fucking sucks. And then Jeremy Burton, of course, overhears all of this and then is like, they cause like a bar fight, whatever. So then they are like running away from like Jeremy Burton and his like gang of his like boys. And so they end up like hiding in this box, and then they wake up in the morning and oh no, they're on an ocean liner. Whoa. I shouldn't say a farce. It's a screwball comedy. It's not a farce. It's a screwball comedy. They're like, whoa, we're on an ocean liner. And then, do you know who else is on the ocean liner? Jeremy Burton. And so they have to pretend to be like different people. Like they're in like 9 different costumes throughout. They like pretend to be stewards for a while. They pretend to be their guests for a while. And then the thing that you find out is that they are overhearing all of these conversations, all these rooms, and they overhear a conversation about a plot to bomb the boat.
Oh my God.
And so like the back half of the movie is them trying to figure out like who the bomber is. And it's like, you know, there's all these like there's like pratfalls and slapstick and crazy things happen. Allison Janney does a horrible French accent at one point, and like it's like a very like screwball comedy. Like it's a classic screwball comedy. Yeah, it's a really like fun movie. It's just like it's a little long and it's a little lost in the sauce in the middle. But I had like a nice time watching it. Tony Shalhoub's in it also. I know I already said that, but he's really sexy in this movie.
I think you're getting a Tony Shalhoub awakening.
I am, because to me Tony Shalhoub was just Monk, because that was my only like interaction with him as a young person. Mm-hmm. Now I've seen him in other context. I'm like, oh, Tony Shalhoub. So, okay, then the next thing that I was going to try to rewatch was a movie that I have already seen before, A Midsummer's Night's Dream. And then I went on Fubo and I clicked on the cover of A Midsummer's Night Dream with Stanley Tucci and Michelle Pfeiffer on it. And I start watching it and I'm like, this doesn't seem like the one that I've seen before, but maybe I don't remember the beginning of this movie. And then the scene in A Midsummer's Night's Dream where Demetrius and Lysander show up happens. It's like 5 minutes into the movie. And I'm expecting to see my man, Christian Bale and Dominic West. And instead I see 2 boys I've never seen before. And I was like, I'm watching the wrong movie. And Fubo had somehow put the wrong cover and the wrong like description on this like other version of Midsummer's Night Dream.
Weird.
And so I couldn't actually stream the Kevin Kline, Calista Flockhart, Michelle Pfeiffer, Stanley Tucci one. But I've already seen it. I saw it in high school, so it's A Midsummer's Night Dream. It's the Shakespeare play. If you don't know what happens in the Shakespeare play, it's really complicated, and I don't need to get into the intricacies of A Midsummer's Night Dream right now. I will get into the intricacies of the Puck plot, because that's who Stanley Tucci plays. So basically,
incredible casting, by the way. If I could assign a Shakespeare character to Stanley Tucci, it would be Puck.
And I think that's kind of crazy casting at the time. I think looking back, it makes a lot of sense. But at the time, like, he's never really played a character like Puck before. So basically,
maybe with his stage work.
Maybe. I mean, like, looking into his stage work, not really.
Huh.
This was really interesting casting.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But he was a character actor, and so, like, you know, he kind of can do whatever. I don't know if there was, like, an audition process for this or not. But basically, in A Midsummer's Night's Dream, there's a feud between the Queen and King of Fairies, Oberon and Titania, and Oberon's basically, like, using Puck to, like, observe Titania. He's, like, his little servant. Oberon has Puck put this like magical flower potion that's supposed to make you fall in love with the first person you see on Titania's eyes. She sees Nick Bottom, who is currently transformed into a donkey. So Titania falls in love with a donkey, not with Oberon. And then Oberon also has him put it on Demetrius' eyes for some reason. And who is played by Christian Bale, who falls in love with the wrong person, and then it's like, oh no, everyone's in love with the wrong person, and then everything works out in the end, and like 4 people get married at once.
Yeah. Classic. Shakespeare, it's either everyone gets married or everybody dies.
Yes, that is the difference between a Shakespeare comedy and a Shakespeare drama.
Yes.
But so Puck is like an impish little mischievous fairy. And I think what's interesting about this is we haven't really seen Tucci play a character like this before. At least in the movies, I guess maybe there was a play, or I haven't seen one of the movies where he, has played a character like this. Mm-hmm. I have not seen him play. The closest thing to this that he has played, in my opinion, is the character that he played in The Imposters. Mm-hmm. But this becomes sort of like, and this is a big movie, this is a big starry movie compared to like the other things he has done before. And so I think this is like sort of a test of like how indispensable he is, and if he can sort of like cut it in this like bigger league film. And instead of casting him as one of the romantic leads, instead of him being a Demetrius or a Lysander, I mean, he's a little bit too old, I think. Mm-hmm. He's only like 10. He's like 10 years older than Christian Bale. But he is around the same age as Rupert Everett, who played Oberon. And it's like, but he doesn't get cast as Oberon. He gets cast as Puck, and he's playing this like little freak. And he becomes this, like, chaos man. And, like, if you think about the parts that, like, he plays in the part of his career that, like, we all became to know and love him, like, I mentioned Nigel and Caesar Flickerman, this is closer to his long-term vibe, is, like, these comedy chaos agent parts. Even the dad in Easy A kind of has some Puck energy going on.
That's why I feel like it's, like, this character is so Stanley Tucci, because the persona that I think of with Stanley Tucci is the dad in Easy A.
Right, and so it's, like, and he's a really good Puck. I have a soft spot in my heart for this Midsummer.
I feel like if I could assign you a Shakespearean character, I would also assign you as Puck.
That's who I played when I was in high school.
Yeah. But, like, I feel like that is, like, your, like, if I could just put you in a Shakespearean play, I think you would just slay as Puck.
Thank you. I think if I could play a character that also gets to do some kissing, it would be the girl in As You Like It, who spends the whole play as a boy.
I love that. The theater that I do shows at is doing 12th Night for their next season. Oh, so
delectable. You'd be really good as Maria/Mariah. It depends on the version that how they say it. But she's in like the Toby Belch gang that's like playing the prank on Malvolio. Mm-hmm. So I have 2 more movies to talk about for this episode. Okay. It's another really bad one. Aubrey, this is a really bad one. This is a really bad movie. The next movie I watched was called In Too Deep, which is and I hated how much I didn't like this movie because it stars Omar Epps, LL Cool J, Nia Long, and Stanley Tucci.
Odd. Okay.
I should have liked this movie. It has people that I like in it. This is a movie about Omar Epps' character is a cop who goes undercover to infiltrate LL Cool J's gang. LL Cool J's gangster name is God. He gets in too deep, and so Stanley Tucci is like basically like his supervisor. So he pulls him out. He goes and like stays in this like cabin in the woods so he doesn't get like killed by the gang. Falls in love with Nia Long while he's like basically like on this college campus. Then he decides he has to go back undercover because no one's going to be able to bring down God except for him. Whatever. Literally, like, I watched this whole movie and I don't care about anything that happens in it because the problem is you end up empathizing way more with all of, like, LL Cool J and his gang than you do with Omar Epps' character. Because Omar Epps is, like, a cocky asshole cop and a really brutal asshole when he's, like, pretending to be a drug dealer. Mm-hmm. And like, they show you a lot of, like, how LL Cool J's character, like, cares about his son and is like doing good things for the community in addition to like being a drug dealer, which like he's also bad. Like as a drug dealer, he's also bad and he like assaults he like kills his best friend because he like looked at his wife the wrong way. And it's basically like a real story too. And which is really fucked up that like to base off a true story and for me to come away feeling more sympathy for the drug dealer's problem. And it's like also very sad because I mean the real guy who Omar Epps is ostensibly playing like killed himself 3 years after the case. And like in this movie, Omar Epps' character gets like a happy ending with Nia Long. And I think that's really weird. Like obviously this actually did like a real number on this guy who did this undercover operation. And that's actually more interesting to me as a film than, and now he gets to ride off into the sunset with his girlfriend. Like, who also should not be with him because he's a fucking dick to her while he's undercover. Yeah. Anyways, In Too Deep was not good.
Who is Stanley Tucci in this?
Oh, he's Omar Epps' supervisor.
Okay.
Basically, his whole role is to be there and be like, "You're in too deep, kid." And Omar Epps is like, "Fuck you, old man. You don't know shit." And Stanley Tucci's character is like, "You're in too deep. You're going crazy." And it's like, and then basically he does pull him out, and like, so he does the right thing by pulling him out, but then fucking Omar Epps' character goes above his head to like the DA or whatever and gets him to put him back in undercover, and Stanley Tucci's like, you're a douchebag. It's a nothing part for Stanley Tucci. This is what this movie I think was a money movie.
Yeah.
The last movie, and I wanted to end here, A, because I watched a lot of movies this week, and B, because I do think this sort of is a little bit of a shift in Tucci's career, is he does this made-for-television drama film in 2001 that dramatizes the 1942 Wannsee Conference. I don't know how to say it. It's the meeting where the Nazis decide to start killing Jewish people. Mm. And so it's a TV movie, and it stars Kenneth Branagh, Stanley Tucci, Colin Firth, David Threlfall, and a few other like kind of famous, Ben Daniels, like a few other like kind of Owen Teal. Mm-hmm. It's one of the first movies Tom Hiddleston was ever in. He plays a telephone operator, and I didn't know he was in it. But then there's this part that's like, call for, or they're like, the general's here, sir. And I was like, that's fucking Tom Hiddleston. I know that's Tom Hiddleston. And it was.
Clocked.
But basically, like, this movie, Stanley Tucci had won awards prior to this. He had won awards for another made-for-TV movie called, the first Emmy that he won was for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Miniseries or TV Movie for a movie called Winchell, which is about the life of Walter Winchell. For if you don't know who Walter Winchell is, he was like a newspaper gossip columnist and radio news commentator. So he wins this. He has already won an Emmy for that one. He ends up winning a Golden Globe for this one and is nominated for an Emmy for this one. And I think between like, there's this interesting thing where I feel like he's like very much like legitimizing his career in some ways between these two, but specifically with Conspiracy because it's with other like, you know, big actors like Kenneth Branagh and Colin Firth. And so basically in this movie, he's basically playing Kenneth Branagh's like second in command. And they're the two that are very much like, basically they're there to convince everyone else that the solution is that they should start killing all the Jewish people. Mm-hmm. And Colin Firth's character and David Threlfall's characters are like not good guys. They are still actively Nazis. Yeah. But they're like, we have these laws. We have the Nuremberg laws that like say that like we're not supposed to do this. Like we've already decided what we're like we like wrote the law. What you guys are talking about doing is against the law. Mm-hmm. And so they're like basically trying to stop the final solution from happening. They're like advocating for like sterilizing all Jewish people. And so it's still also fucked up. But basically this whole movie was based on a real transcript mm-hmm. that was found of this meeting. Oh. And basically they decided on the final solution in like an hour. And so the movie like happens in basically real time.
Wow.
There's like 20 minutes of like everyone arriving. There's like an hour of the actual conversation in which they decide to start killing all of the Jewish people. And then they, like, all leave.
I like that it's not depicting the Nazis who are particularly against this as, like, we're the good guys who don't want this to happen. It's more framed as, like, yeah, like, administratively, legally, there are logistical issues with doing this.
And you can, like, tell that, like, part of, like, Colin Firth's, like, motivation is he's the one who wrote the Nuremberg laws. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like, how dare you defy the laws that I wrote? The guy who's the other lawyer, David Threlfall's character, is, like, mad that, like, the SS, because it's Kenneth Branagh's character and Stanley Tucci's characters are SS officers, mm-hmm. and David Threlfall's character is like, the SS shouldn't be getting involved in this. Like, this isn't SS jurisdiction. Like, this should have come from my office, mm-hmm. not from your office. And so it's like I watched the first half of it and then I had to take a break because I was like, oh, this is actually really horrible to listen to. And it's literally basically them just like sitting around a table talking the whole time. And it was really good. And it also like, I don't know. I think also part of why it was hard to watch is like, these are the kinds of conversations that our government is like having right now about like what to do with all the undocumented and not undocumented people who they're kidnapping and putting into these prisons. Yep. And so it's like, I was like, oh, like, this is scary, and maybe more people should also watch this movie because, like, this feels likely. Mm-hmm. But in the context of this episode, a couple things to talk about. My note that I wrote is, wig! He's wearing a wig! A wig to play a Nazi! Blonde Tucci looks like the Volturi from Twilight. He looks crazy in this movie. I was
what
like,
what is it called again? I'm gonna look him up.
Conspiracy. Both him and Kenneth Branagh are, like, so blonde and scary looking in this movie. It's, like, kind of unbelievable. Like, they are just two great character actors, and they are both blonde and frightening looking in this movie.
Yeah, they are Aryan.
Yeah, it's specifically Kenneth Branagh is like so scary looking in this movie. Stanley Tucci, they do a good job of like
never trust a blonde man.
Yeah, Stanley Tucci, it's like the wig. Stanley Tucci's on a really good wig in that movie. That was where I ended this week's watching of Tucci movies, because it felt like sort of this like first step between that and Midsummer and a couple other things. It's like he's like both stepping into these bigger projects and stepping into like more prestige projects. Conspiracy was like an HBO mini like TV movie. I think Kenneth Branagh wins an Emmy for it. Like, it's like a very, like, prestige-y, showy thing that he's in that I think is going to start leading into, like, what eventually gets us to, like, The Lovely Bones.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that is, like, similar to almost like Chernobyl, where it's like a lot of actors who are not particularly well known, but they're in this like really powerful, HBO series, and then it's like, okay, cool, like what else can these people now sort of be in? And I feel like that's kind of a similar thing with Stanley Tucci, where it's like he's been working as an actor, but this is the project where now it's like he's on people's radars.
Yes. Oh, also, I said the name of the movie that he plays a mobster and again was The Pelican Brief. That's wrong. He was in The Pelican Brief, but that was in the 1993. 2002's Road to Perdition is the next time Stanley Tucci is going to play a mob guy. And that's sort of where I wanted to start next time, because this movie also ends up getting nominated for several Oscars, and I sort of think just like kick Stanley Tucci into like is a furthering of this, like more him being in these more like prestige, bigger movies. And like Aubrey, you mentioned Sam Mendes is coming off of American Beauty, and then he makes this movie, which is DreamWorks. And, it's got Tom Hanks, Paul Newman, Jude Law, Stanley Tucci, Daniel Craig in it. And so it felt like maybe a good place to start next time as we sort of get kicked into Stanley Tucci and his like mainstream big movie era. But closing this episode, in the 80s, he's losing his hair, but he still has a fair amount. And so we're really playing a lot of these like smarmy gangster types, assholes who crush a lot of pee. Here, it's like the hair is sitting to the point where he sort of only has it on the sides. And so it's like we start seeing more wigs popping up. I think it's very specific that in the first movie he directs and writes, he wears a wig. And then he like also is playing these more like weird guy characters, like he's doing more weird guy shit during this era because he's also like not in his 20s anymore, so he's not really like the young dude anymore. He's like finding a different type in his like new like 30s era, and he's like designing characters for himself, and in turning down all these mob guys is sort of like figuring out the type of actor he wants to be. And like I mentioned, it's also this era where he's like making movies with like the same kind of guys over and over again, and like just doing shit with his pals, his indie theater era. Campbell Scott, Hope Davis, Tony Shalhoub, Lily Taylor, Parker Posey, Steve Buscemi, Allison Janney, like are in all of these movies with him during this era. And he thrives in this environment because he's precise, he's theatrical, he's collaborative, and he's good at the talkie. He's good at like lines with a lot of like dense. I'm actually surprised. I don't think Stanley Tucci has ever been in an Aaron Sorkin project, and I'm kind of surprised by that. That seems like a thing that like he would have been really good for. And I think that a lot of people have said that like Conclave feels sort of Sorkin-y. And like, because that is the kind of shit that he's good at. So I'm kind of surprised they haven't worked together.
Social Network 2? Social Network 2? Cast list? Where is he? Where is he? He's not there.
The other thing about this is this era that I talked about today is the era where he's not doing any theater. He's like only doing TV and film acting. He'll return to theater one time on stage in the early 2000s, which I'll mention next time. And he'll return as a director a couple times after that. But by the end of the 90s, he's directed, he's written, he's produced, he's done Shakespeare, he's played a Nazi, he's played More Jealous Husbands, he's played like neurotic, freaky little dudes. He's played chaos sprites. He's played screwball actors. And so I said at the beginning that this is his throwing spaghetti at the wall era. And next week, what we're going to really see is what spaghetti stuck. And like what of those types sort of then launch him into the Mr. Tooch that we know and love today. I don't know that next episode will be the last episode. I think it'll either be the second to last or last. Depends on how many Tucci movies I can watch in the next few days, honestly. But yeah, we're gonna see what's gonna happen as he starts to pop off into this more mainstream success. And he becomes, he was playing like the sexy guys in the 80s. And then in this era, we don't got a lot of sexy guys going on. I'd say Big Night is sort of the closest thing to a sexy guy. He is in that movie kind of playing a smarmy guy who crushes a lot of pee, but he's the main character. So he, it's really the only time we like see him play a leading man in that way. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see sort of where he goes from here, where he sort of like finds his niche in the main. He definitely found a niche in the indie ecosystem, and in the next episode, he's gonna start to find his niche in the mainstream ecosystem.
Yeah. I think this is really interesting. I love seeing this trajectory of like what it is to be a working actor, because I think a lot of people assume that like a Stanley Tucci just kind of pops up out of nowhere, and it's like, right. No, he was on his fucking grind for decades, actually.
Yeah, and I think it's like I was editing the football episode while also watching a lot of this, and I was thinking a lot about your comment about like you made a comment in the football episode about like there's not a lot of like guys who like play football when they're older and like that's for like body reasons, but you mentioned like working actors who are able to like keep going. And I think Stanley Tucci is such an emblem of that because he just keeps changing. Mm-hmm. And because he's willing to do like a lot of different stuff for better or for worse. He does great shit like the Daytrippers, and he does terrible bullshit like fucking In Too Deep. Like, yeah. And that is like, that's how you kind of be a working actor when you aren't Daniel Day-Lewis.
You are just loving the Daniel Day-Lewis comparison today.
It's because it's the other time I've done this it's the only other person's career I've tracked in this way. And it was really interesting with Daniel Day-Lewis to watch him go from playing like young, scrappy IRA guys to like what he does now, like them being like Abraham Lincoln. There was a really interesting similar thing with, maybe one day we'll talk about Daniel Day-Lewis's career trajectory.
I did this with Jared Leto, just for fun once.
Why did you do that?
I wanted to get a peek inside. And what I saw was exactly what I expected.
He asked my friend to go to an island with him once.
I know, he thinks that he's saving the world through his music. Jared Leto is an actor who thinks he's a musician, and he thinks he is a musician who has influence, which is insane.
Does anyone know any 30 Seconds to Mars songs besides the one?
No, but that's the thing. I also watched all the 30 Seconds to Mars music videos, and there's such an interesting trajectory with those, where it's like, at first, they're basically just a knockoff My Chemical Romance, and then over time, like, they're trying to do like a Coldplay now, where they're like, we are the world, we love our fans,
we are the children,
the power of music saves everybody, and like all their music videos are these weird like inspirational porn of like footage at their concerts of like how everyone is so together and like embodied by the music of 30 Seconds to Mars.
I think what Jared Leto really wants is to be a cult leader.
Yeah, like I think he wants to like have like a commune and like everybody wears white, and I think that's the goal. I think that's what he wanted Jessica to be a part of.
Yeah, she's not. She's good. She's safe. She works at a different bar now, so he doesn't know where she is.
God, if only it were me. Get me in a room with Jared Leto, and he will forever be changed.
Have a question or a topic that you would like for us to discuss? Send us an email at informedattraction@gmail.com.